What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How are all you beautiful people doing out there in YouTube land, Twitter land, wherever you're watching the video? Shout out to everybody watching live, everybody hanging out in the chat, everybody that's going to watch on the replay. And as you guys can see, we got a phenomenal guest in the house, a very familiar guest, the General Mav in the house hanging out with us. How you doing, Mav? How you been, brother?
Not bad, man. I just got done downing some wings. So,
oh yeah, got to do that.
Absolutely. It's been a chill day. Me and Kate played some Call of Duty today. And otherwise, we've just been relishing in the glory of gaming because there's so many games to play. It's absolutely insane. And I know I'm not going to finish them all before these other games come out. So I don't know what to do with myself, but just play. And I've been having a blast with everything, man. So it's good to be back. It's been a little bit. I feel like
it has.
Yeah.
So like, it don't take too long to get right back to it, though, right? It's like riding a bike.
It's like another second home here over on the shop. So I'm always happy to be here when I can, man. It's awesome. Even though I got to put up with Pong and his crap,
the constant attempts at mutiny.
Yeah, it's just trying to put me down and get me discouraged before we go live on a show. That's just what he likes to do. But it's all right.
Yeah, just so
you gotta get tough. You gotta get
just
tough.
So you guys know, to be able to be a guest on this show, that's part of the litmus test here at the Shop Podcast. If you can't take the beating from Pong post-show, pre-show, sorry, pause, right?
Yeah. No Diddy.
If you can't take the verbal lashings, you might not be able to make it. No, but
gotta callous these people up when they come on here, PTK, man.
Yeah, man, run them through the ringer.
Pong's weak.
Shout out to Mav for coming through. It's a FSP shop party, man. Mav is back in the house, but you guys know what to do. All Mav's information is down in the description. Shout out to you for being here, brother. Shout out to the wings and the chips and the fries and the Coke for being here too. Shout out to Caitlin. Appreciate you as well too. And we will try and fit that time frame in, brother. But glad you're here. We got a lot to talk about, man. Let's go ahead and get to my other brothers, man. What's up, Pong? How you doing, man? What you been up to? Shit.
Oh, good, Brody. It's been a hell of a weekend. Casual. I'm a filthy console casual this week, man.
I love that.
No, man, I can't come on here and sell anybody anything because
what?
You know what I played this week?
You don't have no sales pitch.
No, because I played I'm console casual this week. So I got Diablo. And I got Call of Duty. I feel like I'm back in the 360 generation all over again, man, this week. I haven't turned on my PC to play a game all week, which is crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, brother. I haven't done that. Okay. It's been all Xbox straight back to old school. Diablo and Call of Duty. Listen, I'm just having a blast with both of them. Again, Diablo's so easy for me to get into at the night when I get home from work. Just quick it ends out. Just gather, just keep leveling up, and doing my thing. Slowly working through that expansion story, but just having a great time, just running around with randoms and doing dungeons and doing a bunch of stuff. Otherwise, just soloing everything, and then of course Black Ops 6. I mean, again, Steele and I got a chance to play Monday night, which was great. Normally we don't do that, but I got home early enough and I had some time, so we hopped into some Black Ops 6 and got to play with him. I had played with the fam last weekend as well, the Fun Spec fam, when Steele was working, so Steele and I didn't get a chance to run together then. So we ran together Monday night, but both times just having an absolute kick-ass time. Black Ops 6 is still just living up to everything that we talked about last week. It really is just a freaking fantastic Call of Duty game, man, and it's a throwback. Treyarch grabbed a little magic. Of course, they spruced it up with the Omni movement and all that kind of stuff, but it's a throwback to the older Call of Duties. No Call of Duty is going to be perfect. Not everybody's going to be happy with this shit. I hear the bitching and moaning, complaining as always on these games. But for me, man, this feels, again, like the 360 generation kind of Call of Duty. I just enjoying the hell out of it. This week is, of course, Double XP weekend, which is massive
the Nuketown as well, right?
With Nuketown, yep. I have not had a chance to run Nuketown yet, but I will be doing that. But Double XP, I can't pass that up. I've just got that old feeling. Now that they got that old Prestige back in there, I got that old want to prestige a couple times, right? I'm never going to be that max prestige.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that dude, but I just want to prestige a couple times, man. It feels good playing some Call of Duty Black Ops, man. So yeah, that's all I've been doing, man. Some filthy casual gaming this week. I got plenty in the backlog. I got plenty. I keep buying more from all these bundles and from all these sales for the PC. So I got plenty of stuff that you guys will be hearing about, some smaller games and that kind of stuff in the backlog. But right now, this week, man, it's just been Diablo and Call of Duty, and I'm having a blast, brother. Having a blast.
Love it. Same. If I could just jump on the bandwagon there, I've been playing just really nothing but Diablo. Pretty much just grinding through that. Like you said, I finished out the DLC, the story, did all of that stuff. I think I'm about level probably like almost 150 at this point as far as Paragon level. So getting up there, trying to get to Torment 2. Gotta do that level 35 pit. So about to do that probably tonight. So yeah, just grinding, playing, like you said, filthy casual shit. Love it. Love it. Game. I was just telling Mav before you guys jump in here pregame, we're in such a great spot right now as far as gaming. It's such a positive space for everybody right now. There's plenty to play. There's more than enough to play, with more even coming. Everything just seems to be hitting right now. Like the small releases, big releases, everything seems to be dropping when it needs to. Everything's like over like delivering, you know what I mean? Like it's a really good spot for gaming. So that's where I'm at. I'm just kind of basking in the ambiance, Pong. Like that's really what I'm doing at this point, man. It feels really good. The gaming is in such a good space. So that's all I'm doing at this point, is playing the Diablo. So let me go ahead and throw this over to you, Fuzz. How you been? What you been up to, brother? What you been playing?
Oh man, it's great to be here with you guys. Just been relaxing. Didn't do much this past Halloween, because we already did a lot of Halloween stuff earlier in the month. Did the haunted house about midpoint of the month, and did the trunk and treat stuff like, what was it, last weekend. So yeah, this is more of like the relaxed time, and I've just been going through my sci-fi fix, doing a little zombie stuff as well with State of Decay 2, but I'm now in the middle of playing Prey. I just had that need for like a space horror type of game without it being Dead Space or Callisto Protocol. And Prey definitely has that, with the jump scares of, wait, was that mug there before when I looked over there? And you turn around and next thing you know, you're getting hit upside the head with something. So yeah, really liked the game. Played it on console. Didn't finish it on console, but you know, apparently you get another round of achievements if you play it on PC. So I'm just double dipping, playing it on PC this go around, and just having a blast with it. But other than that, still playing Forza Horizon 5. I think I'm up to like 814 cars, or unique cars. I got like 863 with all the duplicates and stuff like that. But you know, just plugging away. I guess I'm about 3,000 points away from 1 million accolades. I gave up on accolades because of the bugs early on, and just playing catch up on it now that everything's been fixed for a while, and just plugging away each week with all the seasonal content that they do, or weekly, or actually monthly, but they break it down by week as far as like the playlists and the cars you can get and stuff like that. But just having a blast playing some of my usual favorites. But looking forward to this holiday season. Haven't really dived into Call of Duty as much. Played a little bit of the campaign launch day, but at some point, once I get past my sci-fi,
there's so much to play right now, brother.
Yeah, and I got to get back to Starfield Shattered Space stuff. I think I'm about 6 or 7 hours, or maybe 8 hours into just the early part of the story, and I haven't even dived into all the side stuff that they have built into it. But yeah, there's just way too much stuff to play at this point. But you know, hit the backlog, play some current stuff, and then bounce around in between.
Awesome. Well, you know, we all just been playing games, and shout out to chat. Shout out to everybody here hanging out. Let me know in chat what you guys been playing as well too. It's such a good time for gamers right now. But let's get into the topics we got here today, man. And once again, shout out to everybody watching on the replay later, man. But let's get into it. I kind of want to jump off the porch with, we're gonna talk a little about Firewalk and you know, obviously Concord developer being shut down officially. Sony shutting them down completely at this point in time, and we probably not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this, but I kind of wanted to get it in because obviously this kind of puts a point period, you know, as you would say, at the end of that sentence and that short-lived legacy of Concord. And once again, if you look at it as a whole, just not a great attempt at Sony, another failed attempt at a live service game. So I just want to start with you on this one, Mav. I know we've kind of talked about this in great length, so I don't know how much more we're going to talk about, but just kind of putting a pin in this whole, topic as far as that go. Like, how does this look for PlayStation? Obviously, this is a big deal for them because it's another developer, another game that you put a bunch of money and time into that you just went away, just vanished in the thin air, and you can't get that back.
Well, it's not a good look, that's for sure. I mean, it, like you said, it kind of puts the pin in it, right? Like, but I think it's kind of putting a pin in their vision for their future also, because like they had, according to all the reports, huge aspirations for this game, right? Like there was a whole thing going around about toxic positivity, that nobody's allowed to say anything, that this game wasn't going to be great, and they put all their stock in it. They were so excited about it, they ended up acquiring Firewalk, despite trouble with the game already, even in the development cycle. They doubled down. They purchased Firewalk. They showcased it at the showcase that they had last year. Nobody was excited about it. The PlayStation fan base was, like, what the heck is this? Is this PlayStation now? Like, what's going on? We got Concord and Fair Games. Like, I don't understand. Then shortly after that, it was no surprise that they had a bunch of shakeups. There was announcements of a bunch of game cancellations. Jim Ryan left, and all these other kind of things. So that was, I think, the transition where they were like, hey, this is not what the fans are going to be excited about. And I think they saw it with the buzz and they have all these metrics probably where they can track, like, how many people are watching these videos or looking up these games and all these other kind of things. And I think they were discouraged from it from that point. But they were like, people are still going to love it. They're going to love it. And they released the beta, which had nobody playing, besides Pong. Pong was one that played it. And then they had the full release, and they released it. It didn't take off. Nobody just didn't have any excitement around it whatsoever. They ended up shutting it down 2 weeks after release, which is unheard of.
Yeah,
like it's just can you get any more of a disaster than that? I don't think so. Even some of the most failed games we've had in a long time, you talk about a game like Babylon's Fall, which was also a PlayStation exclusive, lasted a year before even that got shut down, right? And that was one that only had a 1.1 person playing on Steam, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So it goes to show that they were quick to pull the trigger on it. When there were reports that, hey, we're gonna look at all of our options and bring this back as possible, it was like, no, there's no way. Like they're gonna actually do that and bring it back and actually hope to have some kind of
this was
future.
Not a cyberpunk situation at all.
No. Like this is a way worse situation. Like, and they had already burned all that money, and I think maybe the only consideration they would have had is like, can we turn this into something where it's not going to cost us as much? Like, can we recoup some of this? But I think after looking at it, it's like they just saw that it was only going to burn more, right? So at the end of the day, they made the decision that they're just going to go and shut down the studio. Like, I don't really like that approach. I said the same thing with Xbox when they closed Tango Gameworks, even though Tango Gameworks had a resurrection. And then also Arcane Austin. I kind of like the approach of like, let's put them on a different project. Let's move them over. Maybe they can help with something or whatever. Find some other uses for the talent, right? But because gunplay was supposedly solid, right? People like the way that the guns felt, and a bunch of other.
I heard the level design was pretty good too.
Yeah, there's probably some talent there that could have done some stuff for PlayStation. They're desperately in need of people that know how to do good shooter mechanics in games. Besides, Bungie is really the only team that they have, right? Does that. So I would have liked to see that, but they put the nail in the coffin and said, nope, we're just going to say bye after we just acquired you. And thanks for coming to PlayStation for a year and have a good day. And Herman Hulse gets to sit there and smile and be excited about the future of PlayStation. That is now the future of PlayStation, not what he was pushing for at least a few years as they dabbled in the games of service, which they're still saying they're going to do, but they're nowhere near as much.
I was going to say that whole initiative has to be like once again, I think it's very, very clear that the board didn't like that, right? The guys at the headquarters did not like that. I mean, maybe they thought they looked at the numbers and said, okay, maybe this will work initially when Jim brought them the numbers and okay, we need to do this. But after the actual execution itself failed horribly, yeah, they lost faith in that right away.
There's a reason why they wanted to do it, because they need to.
They need
like
to.
They got to figure out ways to have more monetization, more games of service type things, because they're capped on the console market, right? Like, and that's something they kept talking about, is finding new ways of expanding and taking advantage of their IPs and stuff and doing all these things.
Everything coming to PC now.
Yeah, so that's one of the avenues, right? The other avenue is actually have games that make ongoing money and stuff, and they didn't really have any of those. Helldivers 2 is their only one now, really, that does that, right? So
yeah,
they kind of needed to, but we're gonna see it. Maybe they took off like too big at once. I think they tried to become something that they're not. It's like all of a sudden, and that's just not really the right approach. You don't sacrifice everything that you are to chase something else, right? And they did that, and it's obviously causing problems with the first party pipeline. They've had to double down on third party and second party type deals to get exclusive games for their platform, which they've had some good ones. They've had some failures, right? But that's just going to be what it is for the time being until they get some good ones. But the biggest question I have over this whole thing is like, what's going to happen with Fair Games? That's the one that I'm got my eye on. It's the Jade Raymond studio, Haven.
Yeah.
It was the other one that was announced when Concord was announced. Nobody was excited about that one either. I think that one's supposed to be next year. I don't know for sure, but
yeah, have they pivoted already on that too, just based on the reception of Concord? And well, I mean, let's be honest, and we've talked about this, Mav. If we want to rewind this all the way back, this is an absolute self-inflicted wound. You know, we talked about this in great length, that's what when you say, you tell your fan base that's not a good game, or, you know what I mean? And you just kind of stick to the, what you do best, the typical third person action adventure, over the shoulder, narrative driven
only games that matter. What makes us who we are, what defines PlayStation, right?
Exactly. And this thing, like the ground moves under your feet and you're still tap dancing like, oh, look at, you know what I mean? Well, like for lack of a better term, you're just still kind of just doing your own thing and everything's just shifting. And then you look up and all of a sudden the whole landscape is different. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden games are super expensive to make. They're double, triple the price they used to be. And now you got to make, that money back within the first 30 days. Otherwise, you're probably going to eat that, So like with all of that pressure, you need these type of live service games. Now, as much as people say that you don't, man, because there's a large group of people say, you don't really need to do that.
Yeah, well, they want to grow. They do, and that's what makes the business successful, is growth. And they could keep selling the same consoles to the same amount of consoles each generation and keep selling actually less games than they did in the past. But I don't think that's really what they want to do. I think they're looking to grow. So they started doing the PC thing. They had that other games of service approach that they were trying. That didn't work out. So the other avenue, I expect them to keep pushing more towards other platform releases. I don't know necessarily what that means per se, or like what franchises or games, but they got to figure out ways to grow. And otherwise, as the console market continues to kind of stay either stagnant or dwindle somewhat over the years ahead as technology keeps changing, they're going to be in a rough spot. So that's something that I've always kind of seen. Everybody always praises the way that they do things, and I've always kind of looked at the future and what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and I think the future looking people at PlayStation are the ones shaking in their boots, right? They can always find ways to get by here and now, doing deals and stuff like that. But when the user base keeps changing, which is something that's going to happen, how do you move with that? And they don't have the tech that Microsoft does, right? They got to figure that out. We'll see if they do. They will eventually, but they'll kind of let Microsoft carve the path for them, and then they'll do it maybe 5 or 6 years later, like they always have.
It's a great breakdown, man. It's very interesting because, like you said, it's something that we've watched here kind of evolve slowly, and they've gone from, we don't really need to do that. Matter of fact, we don't think it's a good idea to do that, all the way to the point to where now they're like feverishly, like, we just need to jump in arms, legs, feet first. They're not even like taking that, like you said, they're not taking the dip the toe in approach. And realistically, can you afford it? The ball's been rolling. It's been 5-6 years. Xbox already started that initiative. The Game Pass.
They dipped their toes in the wrong things and they went full force into the wrong things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like they need to go full force into some other things, or like put your whole damn foot there.
Yeah.
At least, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like with the subscription gaming and putting stuff on PC, they're doing a little bit. They're moving a little bit better with these PC stuff, but like subscription stuff, they're kind of far behind there. And as far as like having a shared ecosystem, right, that is going to be something that exists to where you can migrate your games and play different places and avenues. Like they keep saying themselves, they need to find out how to reach other devices and stuff. So. But they don't even have a PC storefront yet.
Yeah. You got to figure that out. They got some logistics, right? That's what we talk about, and this just highlights, once again, we go back to it, and I'm going to throw this over to Pong next, but this highlights the differences between the companies that we always talk about. They have their strengths and weaknesses, man. Like Xbox, Microsoft, they're really good at this networking, cloud, like server side stuff. They're good at that stuff, and they just happen to make video games too.
It's almost like Microsoft is more of a software content services company.
Right? And they're leaning into that. Whoa, who would have thought that, right? Who would have thought that? But if we're going to throw this over to Pong, man, once again, Pong, we've talked about Firewalk at great lengths. We talked about Concord at great lengths, but just kind of putting a pin in it here officially, especially since Sony has now, man. What do we look at just kind of the aftermath of this?
Hopefully lessons learned. I mean, that's what you got to. $400 million, almost confirmed at this point. I mean, even if it was $200 million for Concord, like really? A game that lasted 2 weeks. Herman Hulst has to come into question. His judgment has to come into question. There has to be some internal dialogue between him and Hideki moving forward on how they're going to decide what games get greenlit. I think the biggest problem with this whole thing is that they canceled a game like Factions. They canceled a Spider-Man MMO to put this game out instead. That is, again, judgment-wise, mismanagement-wise, on a level that egregious. I think is it's egregious, unacceptable, and obviously this was a massive embarrassment to Sony headquarters, and they want to remove it. They want to memory hole it. I thought this was going to be the initial or the eventuality all along. I thought Firewalk was getting closed because PlayStation or Sony corporate can't let this hang around and stink up the joint. Okay, that's not how they work. Something like this needs to be buried and forgotten about, and that's what they're trying to do right now. So I never thought it was going to come back as free to play, none of that. So this didn't really shock me, but Herman Hulst's statement that he put out to the studios or the rest of PlayStation that we got a hold of that was posted, he talks about that they're going to continue to move forward, and this is going to be lessons learned, and they're going to move forward with their live games and that kind of stuff as well. Well, Herman, you're going to have to make some better decisions, brother. Right now, you guys are in a big pickle here because you guys have put yourself here. Yeah. You guys canceled properties that had a ton of potential, more so than this game. You called this game personally, internally, the future of PlayStation, okay, which is a quote that's been confirmed. If that isn't a, hey, I need to look in the mirror and make some better decisions down the road, or maybe get some different eyes on things, I don't know what else could be. Again, how many times have we heard Fire Phil? How many times have we heard Fire Booty? How many times have we heard Fire Sarah? Listen, again, unfortunately, their consumer base never talks about this stuff. I didn't go into the dark alleys this week, and neither did Steel. I was hoping Steel did. I was trying to get some insight. Yeah. I was hoping to hear that the PlayStation podcast this week, actually, because they had PlayStation news to talk about, I was hoping that the very business-savvy side of PlayStation guys, the guys that give themselves license to talk about this stuff because they're the only ones that know when they talk about Xbox, I was hoping that they actually did point some fingers at Herman's way this week and lay the blame at his feet, because it does start at the top. Now, obviously, I'm not saying he should have been fired, because I don't believe in that bullshit, right? When you're that high up, you're going to make mistakes, man. You're going to make mistakes. But he's got a pretty big line of mistakes, and people do want to slough it off on Jim. This ain't Jim. Jim wrote the check. Sure, Jim probably said, hey, let's acquire Firewalk. But you know who was telling Jim that everything was cool, including Concord, including Firewalk as a team? That's Herman Holst. Why do you think Herman was his right-hand man? That's his game guy. He was the head of Guerrilla Games. He's the guy who looks at the games. Jim isn't looking at these freaking games and judging them. I'm sure he looks at them, but then he turns to Herman and goes, yeah, Herman, this looks pretty good to me, but what do you think, Herman? That's why Herman was there the whole damn time with Jim, was to be the game expert. So all of these game failures are on Herman Holst, in my opinion. He was the head of PlayStation Studios. I don't care if they didn't pay the full $400 million. They bought him afterwards. They committed to that investment, and it's a failure, and it was mismanaged, okay? And now you cost a whole entire dev studio their employment, because you guys pushed this thing out and rolled it out completely in the wrong manner. And on top of that, nobody's talking about the other small mobile studio, Koi. I forget the first part of it, but Koi, which was also closed this week. That was Savage Studios. Neon Koi, thank you. That was Savage Studios. They purchased Savage Studios. That team didn't even get to put a damn game out, and they closed them down. You know what happens when Xbox does that bullshit? Okay, we get articles for months from the mainstream journalists asking what's wrong at Xbox.
Is this the end?
Is this the end? Right? Well, I'm not even talking about the community bullshit. So again, but these questions should be fairly asked to PlayStation. So I really hope they're learning their lessons. This is a spot now that we talked about that PlayStation could find themselves in, because they abandoned much of the other genres that they used to make themselves, and because they focused on only a couple different genres, if you want to count like the Ratchet and Clanks and that kind of stuff in there as well. But because they decided to put all their studios and all their eggs in one basket, or a basket and a half or two baskets, and they ignored the other 5 to 10 other baskets that they used to make, well, now they're trying to get back to basket making on those other ones, and they can't do it. They don't know how to freaking do it. And they supposedly brought in Bungie. Well, Bungie, half of Bungie is now absorbed into PlayStation. Yeah. They're on life support. They're hoping that Marathon hits, right? Just so they can stick around. Otherwise, they're going to be absorbed all in. But those were supposed to be the experts to help you guys out. Well, that's obviously been a failure as well. So where are you guys sitting at? You're in a bad spot. You've spent a lot of money. You've wasted a lot of time and resources from your first-party studios. Alarm bells should be ringing it off everywhere for this entire community that's so concerned all the time about whether or not Xbox is dead or not. Your same alarm bells, I don't care if they're still selling consoles like crazy, right? I don't care if they're still making money. The alarm bell should be ringing over what are they doing with their studios right now, because this is why you don't have a roadmap. This is why you do not have a entire kind of string of first-party games ready to start rolling out here over the next year or 2 years. You get sporadic releases. Why? Because they were spending time chasing the golden goose that laid 0 eggs for them up to this point, and in fact cost them a lot of money. They bought a bunch of fake golden gooses.
You know what's worse? So you know what's worse? Yeah. Not the money, it's the time that it costs.
It's the time. It's the time and resources. And again, you had games. My biggest pet peeve still will be, and I don't care if anybody wants to argue, because nobody knows for sure. So we're all in the same boat here. So you can argue till you're blue in the face. Yeah, I will argue till I'm blue in the face. I was going to
say, Chris just said this in the chat. Let me read this real quick before you make your point. He said, there is no proof that Spider-Man 3 multiplayer concept and Factions 2 were canceled for Concord. Naughty Dog didn't want to do Factions. And the plans for multiplayer Spider-Man were not officially announced or canceled.
Chris, it does not freaking matter. We know that they were there, and we know for a fact that they are gone. And it doesn't matter. $400 million. If you don't think that didn't have something to do with those decisions, I don't know what to tell you. But again, neither one of us were flies in the boardroom, so we're both going to be speculating on whether or not it was. But I can tell you that does make a difference to people in the boardrooms when you've already invested that much money into one game. Okay, and they greenlit that, and Herman Holst said that was the future of PlayStation. So the facts are the facts, right? So even take that away, the fact that they canceled Factions for whatever reason, the fact that the Spider-Man MMO is now gone for whatever reason, those two things happening, but Concord continuing to be greenlit and pushed out and then closed down in 2 weeks, is a massive failure. Factions and the Spider-Man both would have had fan bases already attached to them that would have given those games time to live and breathe. Don't care if Naughty Dog doesn't want to make those games. They signed up for it. They are your first party developer. They get paid by you to develop games. They were told to go make a games as a service. They promised their fans a multiplayer game, which they never delivered. They promised that the multiplayer was actually going to come to The Last of Us 2 and then backed out on that because they were making factions. So not only did Naughty Dog back out on their fans, but they broke the promise twice to their fans, and that's on them. But PlayStation should have had them follow through with factions. They could have put it out in a smaller form. They didn't need to go as big as it looked like they were going. Spider-Man could have come out. Like Steele and I talked about this morning, Spider-Man, are you kidding me? It could have come out bare bones in early access. Those Spider-Man fans, they just want to swing around the city and beat up bad guys, bro. With their friends, you would have had a massive influx of fans just playing that game until you kept adding more content to it, right? But again, both of those, it doesn't matter if they were canceled or not because of Concord. I think they were. If they weren't, it doesn't matter. The fact that those were canceled, but Concord continued to push forward is just a massive failure. It's a massive mismanagement. And again, questions should be asked about what Sony's doing because obviously they're making a lot of mistakes. They've closed down more studios, right? They've closed more studios down in the past 2 years. They've canceled more games in the past 2 years. And all you guys got recently is a bunch of remasters and remakes outside of the one here or there, the Astrobot here or there. Again, that's because of these decisions that they made 4 years ago to start going into games as a service, or 3 years ago to start investing into games as a service, and none of those things have come to fruition. Otherwise, you would already be waiting and be looking forward to a new Naughty Dog game for sure, right? You know for a fact that would have been happening. You would have had some other first-party studios come through with some experiences. You probably would have had DLC for Spider-Man 2, right? But you don't. So again, this is the reason why I think that there should be questions asked. And again, don't care. Sony's doing great. PlayStation ain't dying, but there should be alarm bells ringing at this point with a situation like Concord.
Good point. To put in perspective too, real quick, like the dollar amount, right? Remember how much of a big deal everybody was talking about Halo Infinite costing $500 million, right? Yeah. Now that's like a legacy major franchise tentpole IP for Xbox, right? Long time development, multi-billion dollar franchise. It made over $1 billion in like a week or two, right? Like it's crazy. But when people consider Halo Infinite like a failure, some of them do, even though it was profitable and still it makes money today. But put in perspective, spending close to that amount, right? I'm talking about 80% of that amount of what everybody made out to be one of the most expensive games ever made. And it shut down in 2 weeks. Could you imagine if Halo was shut down 2 weeks after it was released?
Oh yeah, they would never hit the end of it. It would have been a disaster.
You want to talk about Xbox dead? That would that's something that would have actually been crazy disastrous, right? Like, but because it's new IP, all that stuff doesn't matter. Nobody cares, right? Like, but this was what they were counting on as their future.
Yeah. Another thing too here, and Chris, I hear you I see you in the chat, and the thing is, at the end of the day, brother, we can forget about everything that you just mentioned, and this is all PlayStation Sony's fault. This ball got rolling a very, very long time ago before we got to this point. They completely abandoned multiplayer. For you know how people say, it's like riding a bike. They threw their bike in the trash. They said, we don't need that bike. Like, we don't need that to be profitable and make games. And now they're trying to, they said, let's go find that bike, try and rebend it, put the tires back on. They don't even, at this point, they're not even trying to like ease their way back in. You and I both know that games as a service, you just mentioned it in your post, that they're risky. They don't all win. They don't all work. Matter of fact, they work, more times than not, they don't work, but it requires you trying. You have to put in the effort, the time. You have to fail a few times before you can get to that point. And the problem with Sony is that they're bored. They don't do failure. They don't do, well, we got to wait another 3 or 4 years to get this down right. If this shit ain't working right away, it's not, they're not with it. That's traditional Sony. So I get what you're saying about like time frames and all this other stuff. This started a long time ago, but I just wanted to make sure I got that out. But I want to make sure Fuzz get your bars in here too. So go ahead, Fuzz, when you're ready, bro.
I don't think anybody was surprised by this outcome. The game did not seem to spark any real, energy or buzz or anything along those lines, like you guys said earlier. So this shouldn't be a surprise. And, the gaming media doesn't like to post the bad news as much when it comes to Sony. They don't like putting, Sony's name or PlayStation as the ones that closed a studio. They just say, oh, the studio closed. But when it's, an Xbox studio, it's, oh, Xbox is dead. It's going out of business. So this was to be expected. I'm curious to see what Sony learns from this towards Fair Game. Like, Fair Game didn't seem like it set the world on fire when it was showed off either. So are we expecting the same outcome? Or are they in preparation now, making that a different game or slightly more, I guess, energetic game in comparison? Like Payday 3 already exists, so Fair Game not really looking like it differs that much from a Payday 3. I don't think is going to move any needles, especially for what Sony is looking to get out of it. If they were to go the Grand Theft Auto route, let's say, where you can take your winnings and have other side hustles or businesses and, cars and clothes and houses and such, maybe it stands a chance. But with GTA 6, I don't even know if that would even, garner enough of a player base to play that over GTA 5, or when GTA 6 drops, see if they would even stick around for that. So we'll see what Sony learns from this overall deal, but I'm not surprised. Like I knew from the day it was shown of actual gameplay, when the trailer was better than the gameplay they showed, if they had just, and we've said this before, if they had just made that game into like a co-op game of Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff, I think it would still be around. People would still be cheering it on. It would probably have similar legs to what Helldivers 2 had. They would just have to figure out a way to incentivize the PC crowd to do a PSN login. And I don't know why Sony is so begrudging to figure that out. All you have to do is give away skins or give away, something, whether it's, cross save or something. Figure that out, like, before like you go any further opening up a PC store and stuff. Get something figured out of what, inspires PC players to give them your information, or give you their information, so you can keep track of their purchasing, habits and whatnot. But I don't know. I hope for Haven and Jade Raymond that they figure something out before that game goes through its release, and maybe land like a wet fart kind of deal. Like
I have a question. I have a question for all three of you, actually. Don't you guys think the rollout for Concord was a bit weird? It kind of, they showed it, then it disappeared for like 6 months with no vid docs in between, no developer posts or anything, nothing along the way. Then they popped up and said, hey, the next time we saw it, right, we got gameplay. Then they said, hey, we got a beta around the corner. Then it went away again for a little while. No nothing. No rollout, no videos, no commercials, no anything, not even like Twitter posts from the studio. Then next thing you know, the game's out. And it's like, okay, now you guys are all supposed to come in here and play, or the beta's out, and now everybody's supposed to just come and play it and love it. Like, you didn't give us time to like love the characters, fall in love with the game. We didn't have really any idea what the game was, like what the charming things about the game, or how this differentiates from other games in that genre. Did any of you guys think the rollout was weird?
It was definitely weird, but I'll say this: the characters, the main characters they showed in the CGI trailer were probably about the best of the group. The rest of them were forgettable, to put it best. And I joked about it. Where did they only have 5 characters, and were the other ones just random, like bots or something along those lines? Because it didn't seem like there was any the level of thought and whatnot behind the first 5. didn't seem to exist on the ones that they showed that they were playing against. So the rollout was weird in the sense that I guess this goes to show what Herman Holtz thinking that this was their future and their version of a Star Wars, when they didn't get the activity that they had hoped for. I think they were pretty much like a deer in headlights. They didn't know what to do at that point. So doing dev directs and all that type of stuff, I don't think was in the cards, because
doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like people were interested enough to even play the game. Why would they want to sit through, a half-hour production of, hey, this is this particular character that we're going to talk about this week, and probably get a most thumb down or dislike video on PlayStation's channel or something. But yeah, it was a weird rollout. I think they were probably in, I wouldn't say panic mode, but crisis mode to some extent, where it comes to, well, is this worth doing a free to play? What are our options? If we do free to play, how do we make that money back, considering we didn't, build this around a monetization system of a free to play kind of thing? So I don't know. Like I said, I hope lessons were learned before they get the fair game, because if not, we might be having a different conversation about PlayStation going on from mid 25 to 20 whatever. And I don't think it'll be what people expect.
That's crazy to say. After all of that, that's crazy to say. But awesome topic, man. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap that one up, man. Shout out to everybody watching. Shout out to Chris, Calorie, OCD, everybody in chat, Silent, hanging out with us, man. Hit the like button once again. Retweet the link. Let everybody know the Shop podcast is live. But that is such an interesting topic, man. But we're going to move on to the big one this week, and we're going to talk a little about COD. I'm gonna attach that to something else too, like an additional question for you gentlemen here tonight, YouTube chat as well too. So I'm gonna kind of frame this. Obviously we'll get into COD and just a massive success that Black Ops 6 is, not only for Xbox but for Activision, just for the gaming industry as a whole. Like, I don't know if you guys, we were talking about this pregame, but like, just gaming feels different when COD is doing well. Like, it seems everything feels like it's right. Like, it just does this like good feeling just generally throughout the industry. You know what I mean? Because COD is all reliable, right? Like everybody, and when we get a good one and we can all be happy about it, everything just feels pretty good, right? So, just a massive success that is. But I also want to ask you guys, what now? Right? Like, after all the success, and like, what's the next thing Activision should do, right? Like, are they going, we getting into the back compat stuff now? Are we getting into new IPs now? You know what I mean? There's a lot that Xbox can do. So we start with our guest here, Mav. One, obviously the massive success of Black Ops. You talked about it early when you just introduced yourself. You've been playing the crap out of it, enjoying it, loving it. Timeline been loving it. But also, like, what's next, Mav?
What's next for COD?
COD, Activision.
I mean, I am curious. I was thinking about this earlier. If they do go to like a every 2-year cycle, and if you were to do it, you would want to do it on the heels of a success like this game.
Yeah.
Right. Like, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is the best Call of Duty we've had in a very, very long time, in my opinion. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 was great, but this was even better than that.
I think that was just more nostalgia. This is like that had a lot of nostalgia attached to it. MW2, people were just excited about that game because this is the old MW2.
I mean, we've had really good CODs. Like, we've had, Modern Warfare 2018 was great. I liked Modern Warfare 2. I think that you had some Last Generation that were really good, but overall, like, this one, and I don't know exactly what it is that is making it seem this special. Like, I think it's just because everything, like all the modes, like, if you're a fan of multiplayer, it hits, right? If you're a fan of zombie, it hits. If you're a fan of the campaign, it hits. As well as there's more people playing than ever before because of the new availability with different access points and places also. So the association with Xbox, it's a little bit different too. Like, there's just like something about it. I don't know. Great. But like, overall, like, this game is just what I would hope Call of Duty would become eventually, right? It still kind of like stays true to what it was in the past, like when it was at its best, but does it just better than it ever has. Everything about it so far is like that. So I'm curious what they're gonna do going forward because the next Call of Duty, it's got a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't want to have Black Ops 6 hit and then have something else come out that's inferior. You know what I mean? You got to keep pushing that envelope. So I think like it would be the right time for me if I was them and I was looking at this. I would figure out how to do like more content, extend the content pipeline for this game. Maybe 2 years later, you have like Infinity Ward put out whatever they're making. You know, I don't know if they go Modern Warfare 4 or if they do something else and kick off another new franchise or what. But like I hope that because they're with Xbox, there's less pressure to have like this yearly release, and then you get those situations like a Modern Warfare, right? Not that Modern Warfare 3 was a bad game, in my opinion. I think it was still a good game. But like in comparison to this, you know, it doesn't really hold a candle in my eyes, right? So I'm curious what they're gonna do and how the roadmap's gonna plan out. And it's something I'm gonna be like watching. Because they got Warzone stuff, they got all these other things. You know they're gonna do more zombies content and stuff like that. And you know they're gonna be milking the skins and all these other kind of things. But my ideal situation would be if you had a 4-year cycle, because it's proven that the 4-year cycle really paid off for Treyarch, right? So that would mean every 2 years you get a new game, get it Treyarch's, and then you get 2 years later you get Infinity Ward. Then you have Sledgehammer kind of fill in with the like fun over the top kind of expansion content a year after each, right? So you would have big content every year, but you would still have like a 2-year jump, like something bigger and better.
Yeah.
You know? I think that would be awesome if they could do that. But there's also rumors that Sledgehammer may be working on something else. Like I don't know. I haven't dug too much into those, but I've seen people talking about it. So I'm curious about that as well. But yeah, man, like this Call of Duty's hitting. I've been having a blast. I played Nuketown yesterday. I was playing with Kate today. We running a lot of multiplayer, and it just feels right. Like all the modes, I'm having more. Like I don't. A lot of people have been saying like it feels like the 360 days, and part of that is because of how much fun I'm having playing COD.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't had this much fun playing COD since those days.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like it just feels like the stars have aligned. Like when COD's in a good space, like gaming's in a good space in general. It's been a while, and that's why this feeling feels so foreign. We're all like, oh my god, like what's this like nostalgia that we're all feeling all of a sudden? Like we're all comfortable and like just gaming and just chilling and shit. Like this is how it's supposed to be, right, man?
Yeah, it's crazy too. Like everybody's so down for so long, and like people saying they're sick of these big franchises like COD and all this stuff. Yeah, have a great one come out and it kind of like re-energizes everybody, you know. And like I don't know what it is about it, but like ever since Call of Duty's come out, it seems like a switch flipped in a lot of people, right? With just their overall general positivity of gaming right now. And maybe it's because Call of Duty came out and actually proved that hey, these big franchises and AAA things that everybody says is the death of the industry and what's wrong with the industry can also be some of the best stuff in the industry. Right. And some of the best stuff that we get to play, and we can all have fun with this stuff and not bitch about every little thing all the damn time. And just like, hey, this is Call of Duty and it's supposed to be like Call of Duty and it plays like it and it's hella fun. And I love when games like kind of bring everybody together in a way. And it seems like this game is kind of doing that for the most part. And that's awesome to see. So I want to see it continue. I don't want to see like downturn again where you have some like really bad years or all the negativity and stuff. I want to see them take this momentum and run with it. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the future, because when you release a game like this, the double-edged sword of it is you've now set a new standard.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's such a good spot to be in too. And I was just saying, we talked about this last week, like this is really good for Xbox to have this one be the one that hits right? Like this could have been on PlayStation. This could have been the one that they got going out the door on the way out. So imagine that, right? Like we'd be looking at this probably a bit differently. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody in chat. Sin, OCD, what's up, Froggy T? They said your mic was clipping in and out a little bit, Mav. Not sure what was going on with that. Maybe just a little feedback on your end. Not quite sure, but sound a little bit better now. But yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. And even looking at Activision as a whole, right? Like this Call of Duty, when we got that tweet and we saw, hey, okay, Xbox and Microsoft are purchasing, you know, Activision Blizzard King. There's other components to that, and COD obviously was the crown jewel, right, of the whole. But you had other aspects. Now that COD's successful, essentially it's out the way, quote unquote, right? It's out now. It's doing well. Like there's other things that can happen now. And that's what's awesome too. So, Pong, just where you at with that too? Like now that COD's like successful, it's out. Like there's all this other stuff that they're sitting on too.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of stuff they're sitting on, and there's a lot of stuff that we haven't seen that we should have seen by now. Again, I've scratched my head over the backwards compatibility stuff.
Yeah,
I really don't. I know there's work to be done. I knew that they weren't going to drop everything at one time, but Mike, come on, guys, come on, like, what's going on? What's going on? Again, I will say that we should have had some word, some idea of a roadmap on how they're going to do this, but we should have gotten something by now. It's been a year, so I think that's next up is the backwards compatibility. But just as far as the success of the back catalog, I should say. The success of Black Ops and just Call of Duty in general certainly helps everybody, right? And I think that this is Xbox and Microsoft paid a premium for Activision Blizzard. There was actually people during the acquisition when it was announced that said they overpaid, that they thought that Call of Duty was on its way down, that it was diminishing returns at this point. And so they actually said that they thought that Microsoft had gotten a bad deal paying that much for Activision Blizzard King. But obviously, now that we have what we have from Treyarch and Black Ops 6, obviously because the hype around it, the record number of people playing it, chances are this is going to set records for revenue, even with Game Pass involved, just from the simple fact that we know that a lot of people are still buying it. There's a lot more people that will be jumping back into Call of Duty this year, simply because on all other platforms as well, because of how many people are talking so good about it, because their friends are playing it longer. And again, people are jumping in on the Game Pass. We tend to spend more money on these games in a lot of ways, so we're going to probably buy more skins. A lot of us bought the ultimate, upgrade path, which is not the full price, but it's still another, what was it, $30 or whatever it was?
$30, yeah.
$30. So that helps everybody underneath the umbrella, because when Call of Duty, one of the main IPs that they now own, is doing good, that takes pressure off all the other teams as well. Because when Call of Duty is carrying itself or setting new records, actually going up and beyond what is expected of it, okay, well, that takes a lot of pressure off all the other teams, and they can just simply know that Call of Duty is carrying its weight up and beyond. That's going to help everybody at the top feel good, which in turn trickles down to everybody down below. Things are greenlit a little bit faster, right? Projects are okayed a little bit faster. Everybody's in a good mood. The shareholders are in a good mood. It's sad you got to say all this in a creative business, but this is part of the business. This is part of the business, right? This is the money. Again, we don't get these things unless there's money involved. So the money men get happy, and everybody else gets happy around them. And I got to say that overall, right? Microsoft may have paid a premium for Activision Blizzard King, but my God, this right here, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, people aren't talking about it because the game's been out for over 2 decades, but World of Warcraft is back on the upswing again. They have an entire roadmap laid out that their fan base is extremely happy with. Jez just wrote an article this week how they released a $90 mount, and that's
sold
a mount.
Out. Instantly.
And that's all that you see in the game is $90 mounts. Everybody bitched and moaned about it, but then that's all everybody's buying, right? So everybody's happy with World of Warcraft again, seemingly, right? And they've got a roadmap, and eventually they're going to announce that's coming to console, and that's going to be a huge deal. Like ABK in general is actually on the upswing versus what people thought. Now, as far as the future of Call of Duty goes and what's next, like I said, I really want, and again, this is just a gamer being selfish.
Yeah.
I don't care. I can be selfish. I pay for Game Pass. One of the promises of Game Pass is when they go make the acquisitions, we get the back catalog of games. Bethesda, we started getting back catalog games instantaneously from Bethesda, right? It only took a couple months, and we got those games. Phil said it was going to take a little bit longer for ABK, but we're over a year now. Let's go. I know we got Diablo, right? That's cool. We just got Black Ops 6. That's cool. But I want the old games. I want the Singularity, right? I want the Tony Hawk. Let's get those in there. Not to mention the old Call of Duty. So I think that is next, obviously now. But as far as Call of Duty goes, we've talked about this. Listen, this is a machine. We had plenty of different speculation nights during the acquisition of what could be done with Call of Duty, of what would happen with the franchise. We all have, I think, really great ideas, right? Mm-hmm. Treyarch has proved that extra time on Call of Duty works. Treyarch has now proved that giving the studios extra time to rework that game and really, really put some extra effort into it gives you the better chance of having something like this come out, right?
And it's refresh too,
right?
On it feels like a fresh game, and then people, so
yeah. So I want, again, I don't know what's going to happen because I know what the shareholders want and I know what they demand. And again, nothing changes just because Microsoft necessarily owns them. They're still expected to make a lot of money. But I hope internally that they've seen this benefit and the plan that a lot of us have talked about, where it becomes a 2-team game in Infinity Ward and Treyarch as your two mains, right? They switch off back and forth, but you give them an in-between, right? So that each one of them has the time to develop from the prior one. So like next year, I would hope for just an expansion to this game, to Black Ops 6, right? A big expansion to Black Ops 6. You can even charge for it if you want to, but a big expansion to Black Ops 6. And then have another full game the next year from Infinity Ward. So every 2-year cycle, which means they get 4 years to develop, right? I think that'd be the best. I think that obviously Sledgehammer could handle the expansions in between, or Raven, which Raven is more than capable with their campaigns. But I think you should work something like that out. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I'm not going to hold my breath on that. I just really hope they've seen this and go, wait, maybe we do need to take a year in between. Every 2 years, maybe we do need to try this. But that's what I would like to see. But I think next is the back catalog of games that should be in Game Pass already, I think, at this point.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. So Fuzz. Let's get into that for you, brother. Where you at on this?
I would like to see a couple of things. More collabs. And I think they're already on the path of doing this. Rumor has it that there's going to be a Master Chief skin coming up within a month or so, whenever the season starts. So if they can do collabs with some of their first party IPs, that would be pretty cool. Integrating those in. The other thing, kind of like what Pong had said, like going into the every other year deal. I would love the back catalog too, and I'm pretty sure that's coming at some point. I don't know if they have to set it up like a Master Chief collection where it's a hub type of thing, just to make it simpler. And although it'll probably make it more complicated in the beginning, like the way the game save file is now on console and on PC. But I think once they get that figured out, we'll see the back catalog. But as far as pushing forward, I'd like to see them alternate. Give Treyarch, give what do you call them? I can't even think of the name. Give them more, just basically give them more time in development as far as for the games. So space it out a bit more, put more focus on Warzone on the off year, or maybe kind of like we had talked about and kind of joked about it a while ago, like almost like classic Call of Duty as a, like, not saying that I want remakes or remasters, but almost have it where it's like, all right, for this season, it's going to be classic movement and classic weapons, classic maps, or something along those lines. Like, you know, stuff that's like your off season or off year for Call of Duty. And I think that would be a nice alternative, or lean into what some other, you know, battle royales and other multiplayers have done. Go with like a Lego or Roblox looking version or something like that. But like there are things that they could definitely do to kind of, you know, fill the gaps in between and then give their studios more time for development. Because ultimately, I'd like to see Raven work on something other than Call of Duty on occasion.
They were a great single. They made their own games. They made great games on their own. I can't remember what other game was they responsible for. Was it Prototype?
I think they were the ones that did Prototype, but
possibly.
That would be ultimately what I would like to see of Activision and Call of Duty in general. Outside of that, more third-person stuff, or do a spinoff and have it where, you know, since we haven't gotten a real good Ghost Recon in a while, start doing a third-person one, or one that you can switch back and forth as far as for the single-player aspect. Make it like a sandbox one that you can, not saying that they could just throw it together in a year or two, but something that would at least get Ubisoft on their toes to possibly revisit some of their, you know, cherished IPs and stay truer to their original format kind of thing. But that's basically it. Anything else would be icing on the cake, but a third person spin-off type of thing, more collabs with first party IPs, and give some of the dev studios more time to work on stuff, and, you know, pull some of them away for other experiments if at all possible.
That's what I really want to happen. I'm glad you and Pong brought that up. I think Matt might have brought it up as well, as far as the longer dev cycle between Call of Duties, because we've been asking for that for forever. You know what I mean? Just give the game time to breathe, you know, give people time to miss the game, because you can't, that 1 year cycle, you couldn't even get into a rhythm. You couldn't, I mean, it was okay at the time because, listen, they were at a point where they had a like generational run, and it was like back to back, and we loved all those games in a row, but it got to a point to where, you know, just the fan base was fatigued, and they weren't providing anything new, anything refreshing. People were really down on the game until Warzone came along, and it kind of revived people's interest in COD to a point. But that's even gotten to a point now where people are kind of like up and down on that, right? So Black Ops has injected so much life into Call of Duty as a whole. So you got to ride that wave, man. And I'm glad you brought this shit up, Pong. You cannot drop a dud after this. Like, you better not do a like Vanguard or something like that. Like, you cannot drop the quality. You set the bar.
Yeah, that was Mav. That was Mav that said that.
Oh, sorry about that.
No,
Mav,
that's okay.
sorry.
I'll give Mav credit where credit's due. I'll steal it though. No, it's a great point.
Yeah, no.
It is a great point. And that's why I'm saying that they have to take a step back and think about whether or not they do give this dev cycle time a permanent look, because that's a part of it, right? If the next Call of Duty comes out and is not up to par with what we got at Black Ops 6, well, then you're going to have a big issue with a lot of people unhappy again. Not that it's not going to sell. It's already been proven in the past that people will continue to buy the new one no matter what, but you have now brought back parts of the old magic. You can't have a game come out right after that and be back to like Vanguard, like you said. Like, that's not going to work. Yeah. That's not going to work.
Can't do that. Yeah. Can't do that, you know. And so, and once again, we hope that they learn from these things. And, you know, it's been a while since COD has been in this position in the industry where it's getting like universal praise across the board. Obviously, there's pockets of the fan base that you'll never be able to make happy, but generally everybody's happy with this Call of Duty. Like you said, everybody's eating. If you don't like multiplayer, there's campaign. You don't like campaign, there's zombies. You don't like zombies. You know, there's a little bit for everybody. And this is a very well, not very first time, but a very, very long time that COD's been in this position. So I like all of you guys' ideas too. So I kind of want to hear you guys' ideas outside of Call of Duty about, like, because I mean, I did mention it as far as there's other things that they can do now that Call of Duty's kind of doing what it's doing. And we've talked in great length about, okay, what's the next step for Call of Duty? What about all the other stuff? Like, there's a ton of shit going on. You know, they still got the Toys for Bob thing that's attached to all of that. That's a new IP. Like, if anybody wants to just kind of jump in about some of the other stuff that y'all might be excited for.
You mean specifically about ABK?
Yeah, about ABK in general.
Yeah.
Oh, your mic's really scratchy, by the way.
Oh, jeez.
Really
scratchy. Is it still doing it? Because I screwed something up. I accidentally deleted my profile in my app.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Sounds like you got static now. So
yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot. We know there's new studios that have been created. We know they're working on new IP right outside of the main franchises. There's rumors that potentially that StarCraft breakaway game, third person shooter or whatever, or first person shooters or whatever they're going to turn it into be. If it's StarCraft Ghost, a redo of that never came out. We know that they got lots of things in the works, right? There was rumors of first person, RPG from Infinity Ward and ex-BioWare devs, the talented BioWare devs. So they've got a lot in the works. I think next is, I don't even know where it's going to come from, man.
I don't know. That's what I was thinking too.
Again, Tony Hawk said basically they're going to start doing a new Tony Hawk too, right? He basically confirmed that.
Pretty much.
So yeah, pretty much. He said, I can't say anything, but you're going to be happy. Like fans are going to be happy. So that's basically saying we're going to do
I don't think he's talking about surfing either. No.
So they, again, when they made this acquisition, we talked about how big this company is, and I do think that some of that collab that Fuzzy was talking about, right, is happening already. I do believe that some of the stuff that we talked about where under Xbox, they will be allowed to maybe potentially form new studios, which again, they already have. We've gotten a couple already that we're aware of, and start working on new IP that wasn't happening before. That's going to happen. I really think the next big thing is the StarCraft actual announcement that they're bringing back StarCraft as a franchise next year, and just tell everybody about it, or World of Warcraft coming to console, like I said. Massive announcements, right?
Yeah.
And I think those are going to be the big ones because they just make too much sense at this point, right? And there's going to be a lot of fans excited. Everybody can poo-poo Warcraft, but again, it's still one of the biggest games out there. You throw it on console, you open up a whole new fan base, right? And you just never know, man. You just never know. It's something that should have been done a long time ago that wasn't. But I think those are your two big ones, obviously, and then you're going to have surprises in there. Like I said, whatever the new studios are working on, we could get teases, and we could finally see something. Now, again, they canceled that Blizzard survival game, right, that we found out about. They canceled that, which was kind of sad in a way because of how far along that game was. I really want to see it. But I think now going forward, now that everything's kind of settled out and kind of, like you said, Call of Duty is now pulling up and beyond its own weight now as necessary. World of Warcraft making a comeback here. I'm sure that revenue is also starting to look much better than it was. I think this is a good time for them to have some new IP show up or some new projects show up, and I think we're going to hear about them next year.
I agree 1,000%. And a shout out to Thatch in the chat. He mentioned, you can do this. Is so I'm not the biggest remaster guy, but something like a prototype remake makes sense. Like that game's been away, for a very long time. You got other, ABK IPs as well too. We talked about Transformers at great length. Hasbro absolutely wants somebody to make a Transformers game. So they're like, please make one. They're basically saying they basically already put it, I believe they put it out there, right? Somebody tweeted out that they're more than welcome, right, to do another Transformers game. So there's that too. You got a lot of IP there, a lot of meat on the bone. So Fuzz, looking at outside of Call of Duty, right? Because that's already out the way. They've done that, right? That's a success by all measures, by all metrics, engagement, everything. It's a success. It probably will get the official numbers here very soon. What if they handed you the keys, man? What are we looking at? I mean, he mentioned back compat is huge. I love that you brought up as well, Pong, the getting WoW on consoles and a StarCraft game, because that covers a few bases. Like you said, that's a PC crowd. That's like something that you can that works for console and PC, that you can do, either one and carry over to the other. It's good with the, it kind of works with the cloud. So it kind of melds all that together. So that makes a whole lot of sense too. But Fuzz, like, where are you at, man? What are you doing if they hand you the keys?
A little bit of everything as far as some of their older titles. Like, I'm still one that's pushing for True Crime. I want to see that make a comeback in a nice way, even if it's not. Just don't do it as a like GTA clone or your version of GTA. But I think you can go into, like, even if it's an episodic type of thing. I think that's something that they could probably have as a staple in Game Pass, or just bring back an IP that a genre that's not really, I guess, fulfilled as often as it probably should. Although we got GTA coming out here soon, but there's going to be a gap between that and GTA 7. So I would think that working on something like a True Crime would be a good in between type of deal.
Fuzzy, real quick too. Like, listen, you already know, because that was one of the first games I threw out there during acquisition when this was all happening, that I wanted True Crime to go. You and I had this discussion here, I think, about True Crime. Just think about it now. Saints Row is gone. Yeah. Right, you have another. Look at how many people were looking forward to a Saints Row game. Look at how many people wanted that game to be something to fill that next to kind of GTA. It doesn't have to be a direct competitor, but just think if they did put some money into it. There's so many people who love that style of game, that open world freedom aspect. It doesn't have to be GTA, but if you brought it back and just put a little bit of money behind it and got a good team, my God, you could have a nice 5 to 10 million seller every time that you put it out. Like easy. Exactly. Like that. Oh man, Fuzzy, I want that so bad too, brother. Sorry. I just
no worries.
You got me excited when he said it.
Another one would be Blur, and I know, yes, they already have Forza Horizon, but if you want to have it where Forza Horizon's your eye candy arcade racer that has a little bit of a sim-like feel to it, leave it as is, and then make Blur your kart type racer version of that, or just have it where it's like a in between, possibly from your Forza Horizon, and slotted in between Motorsport. So if you're going to have where those games like Motorsport, it's probably going to be like a 7 to 10 year title now, where they do incremental updates and keep on progressing the game as they go, and have it where Forza Horizon is like your once every 5 years or so, give or take. This would be something that would be kind of like a nice go-between. And maybe you go more so into what the Festival of Forza Horizon isn't, where it's more of the gritty street racing type of deal as well. And you'd have that as your all encompassing between all those studios that do your racers. You basically have it from sim to simcade to street race type of deal, and I think that would be a nice little gap. Yeah, it might take some money away from Need for Speed, and EA might look at them sideways with their partnership, but it's definitely worthwhile having more hats into the ring, because look at what, like, perfect example, like what Ubisoft did with their Motorfest, or what the Crew used to be, turning it into Motorfest, basically a Horizon type clone. It gives you more room to kind of expand into other areas and test things. Like, keep Horizon as your go-to arcade one, and then do some experimenting with Blur as that in between. Another thing I would like to see them do, and I talked about this when people were still gaga over Astrobot, and people want Banjo-Kazooie to come back and things along those lines. I say take some of Activision's platformer characters and take all Xbox IP characters and kind of mix them into a platformer world type of thing, where you can choose your character, whether it's Crash Bandicoot or Spyro or Banjo-Kazooie, or even bring back Conquer or something like that, and have it where they can be in each other's worlds. Although, given how the adult content that Conquer would probably bring, make him an unlockable, or it's only for gamer tags that are 18 and over kind of thing, whatever the case may be. But if you want to have a nice platformer that it would be like a go-to for your console or for your ecosystem that lives on Game Pass and sells some copies as well, have all of your platforming IP characters in this. I mean, even if you have to make a deal again with Tango to have what's his name, like 808, and I can't remember his name, and it's going to kill me now, but from what do you call it? What the Tango game works? What I'm having a brain fart.
Oh, Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, with Hi-Fi. Sorry, but have even him make an appearance in it, and possibly some of the other Xbox IP characters in Hi-Fi Rush, type of world or backdrop type of thing. I mean, there's so much that Activision can do. I mean, they could just set it on autopilot almost and still make a ton of cash for Microsoft and stuff. But I think if they reach into their back catalog to some extent with some of their IP, bring them into the modern era, but keep that same feel and appeal to them, I think they'll have easy cash cows where they were talking. Well, Satya was talking about, was it 20 IPs that are billion-dollar franchises? Mm-hmm. They could up that to 25, 30 easy with just doing some stuff like that.
Awesome. So the cool thing about this too is that like there's so much we haven't talked about, right? And there's so many other games that's in the war chest. And this is the realization that people are coming to and that we're kind of hitting at this point. And we talked about this when the deal was first announced, Fong, Fuzz. This is the point that they were eventually going to get to if the dominoes, kind of fell the right way, and seemingly they have. It's been hard. They've taken a few steps back along the path, but generally this was what was going to happen. This is why you spend the money you spend, right, Paul?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this is again why you overspend, like some people said, right? This is why you pay a premium, is exactly for this. That's 1000%. This is the vision that you have for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just seeing this kind of pan out. And another thing we didn't even talk about too, we didn't bring this up. I've always kind of lobbied for this game to be made. I would love to see them, High Moon take another shot at a Deadpool game, especially with Deadpool being as hot as he is. I'd argue is one of the, top, 2, 3 popular characters in all of Marvel. At this point, I would imagine you'd have to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like Spider-Man, Marvel. I mean, Spider-Man.
Avengers. Him, I mean, you got Iron Man.
Iron Man.
What I mean? So right, I mean, there. But he's right there now with the movies for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you might as well strike while the iron's hot. You know what I mean? Hey, the first couple Deadpool games are really cool. They were kind of niche at the time. Back when you could make any game, Marvel did not give a shit who had the license. They just let you make whatever kind of game you wanted. It didn't matter how big of a studio. You had small devs getting Marvel licenses back in the days. Well, you had 10-man devs getting full-fledged Marvel licenses back in the day.
Of course, man. Yeah.
Let me get Mav in here, but
before they were charging ridiculous licensing fees.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So go ahead and say something, Mav. We got to check that mic real quick.
Is it better?
Oh, yeah, better. Way better. 1000%. You're good. You're good. So jump in on this too, brother. I know you had to kind of get your situation reset over there. We were talking about just all the things in that war chest from ABK outside of Call of Duty, right? And we've talked about Deadpool. He's talked about what were you just talking about, Fuzz? Blur. You talked about a bunch of other games, True Crimes. Blur. Yeah.
And just in general, like a platformer with all their IPs and stuff. They got so many IPs. It's like an open book at that point as far as what they have. But yeah, man, what would be your choices?
Oh man, there's so many. Like my heart wants certain franchises to come back. Like I want StarCraft. I know we're getting them in Game Pass, the old ones, but I want StarCraft to come back like in a big way, right? I want to see also them do more with the Warcraft franchise than just World of Warcraft. I think like you could do a lot of cool like just RPGs in general and different games in different genres that are traditional games, right? Besides, I know they do stuff with mobile and they do some other kind of spin-offy things, but like I'm talking about like it'd be cool to get like an actual big RPG set in that Warcraft universe, right? Like there's so much lore there that they could explore. So I wanted to dive deeper into the franchises that we know and love, the bigger ones, because they've all kind of become mainstay one kind of game or one game franchises, right? And the same thing I want for Halo on the other side. I want them to do a lot of different things with. I also want to see that from ABK with the games that they got. Now maybe we get that with StarCraft Ghost, which is supposedly happening, so we'll see if that's actually going to happen or not. Besides that, like there's a million things that they could do. I want to see like I was toying around the idea before of the fighting games and stuff like that, or like the like Fuzzy was kind of talking about something that involves all the characters and stuff, right? But I want to see that over encompassing all of Xbox. Like and I've had ideas before about some kind of crazy strategy game, RTS game, where you have factions based on the different franchises and stuff. Would be amazing. But find some way to kind of celebrate the brand and everything that encompasses Xbox within a game, besides just the individual properties themselves.
You know what's so crazy about that, and what's so difficult? Xbox makes the type of games they make spans so far. You know what I mean? They have such variety that like it's hard to take all of those characters and put them in one type of game. You know what I mean? And try and figure out what kind of game works for each character and what makes sense.
PlayStation's done it a couple times. They did it with PlayStation All-Stars,
All-Stars
game before that they had. Then they also have or the brawl, whatever you call that genre. Then you have Astrobot, which is like a love letter to PlayStation, pretty much, right?
That's more as an avatar, right? You can just kind of dress them out as PlayStation characters, right?
Yeah, well, like you go and like visit and talk to like the different characters from different things and stuff. Like, but like it kind of like celebrates different aspects of the brand. Like Xbox has so much now, and that they can incorporate into some cool things like that. I'm not saying do it PlayStation don't do what Nintendo did, but did do something in that they can't do, right? With all of the things that you have with ABK there, all the property and all the brands and stuff, like I just want to see some kind of big shared universe kind of experience like that incorporates all of this, because I can even imagine being a dev and working on something like that. It'd be a freaking fill day, man.
Would you be satisfied if they gave one of Xbox IPs to a ABK dev to do? Like they swapped IPs. Like here you can do.
Well, that's something I was hoping that when they originally bought ZeniMax Bethesda, when everybody's talking about all those games, my initial thought, and I maybe even talked on your show actually at the time about it, was like acquiring a company like that, bring it into the fold. For me, the most exciting thing was opening up the realm of new possibilities with those kind of things, right?
Teamwork, team ups,
id making something like from one of the IPs that Xbox has, or like one of the Xbox studios making something from like one of the ZeniMax Bethesda teams. You know, like you could do so many different things, right? Like let's say World's Edge actually made a Fallout RTS. That'd be pretty sick. Like there's a million ideas you can have involving all these kind of things. I know I keep bringing up RTSs because that's what I want. But
I literally the other day when I was playing the campaign for Call of Duty, I want a Call of Duty RPG. Legit.
Yeah. Really?
I'm not even messing around.
That would probably slap. That would probably slap.
You know how you could pull that? Just think about it. You move up the ranks just like you level up, right? You get to open up skills. You get to focus on, you could become sniper, recon. You could do all different classes just like you have. Like I'm telling you, it would work. There's a way to make a Call of Duty RPG. I'm telling you. Oh, it'd be so dope.
Yeah. I just want to see them do like they're already got a lot of stuff going on, so it's not like it's hard to say at this point now. Xbox needs to do something because I mean they don't really they are doing what they needed to do right before. Like they have all these games in development, they have all these big successful games of service games, they have smaller games, they have games in different genres all over the place. They're bringing back old IP. Like they're doing a million different things that I dreamed that one day they would do, right? Yeah. And they're being successful in a lot of these things, and so it's hard for me to ever say like they need to do something now. So now I'm at the point of like dream stuff, right? You got all this crap, you got all this stuff. It's just like a million IPs. You got all these resources, all these developers, right? Like let's figure out the coolest way to utilize all this stuff and have the most games come out that are going to be awesome for your fan base. And like overall I think they have a lot of that stuff going right, but it'd be cool to check some other boxes too, you know. So but we still don't know what a lot of these teams are working on, man.
That's the other thing,
that stuff like and that includes ABK.
Yeah,
right. We don't know, like Infinity Ward, they just started another studio like again, so like and they were already also working on another IP that we haven't seen yet. Then we also have the whatever Blizzard's working on was the potential of the StarCraft thing. And then you have Toys for Bob's game.
Toys for Bob,
I
yeah,
mean, like,
whatever they're doing.
You have like probably like 5-6 projects probably that we don't even know about, like going on at ABK that haven't even been announced yet, right? And that's just on their side. So then you bring it on over to the rest of Xbox, and we don't know what Double Fine's working on. We don't, like NXI's got more than one project. Obsidian's got more projects they haven't even announced yet. Like, it just keeps going and going and going. And the crazy thing is, we already do know a lot, right? So, like, imagine being in the PlayStation side where you only have questions.
Yeah,
right?
That's crazy.
Or like rumors or speculation.
That's insane saying that in 2024 about PlayStation as well too. Who would have thought, right? I mean, if we're being honest about, because listen, if we're, I'm so tired of the goalposts and the narrative shifting on this. If we're judging everything objectively, right, like based on output, expectations, PlayStation has had a down 2 to 3 years, extremely down, extremely uncharacteristic 2 to 3 years as well. If we're just being objective and honest, take the fanboy glasses and pajamas off and just look at it for what it is. It has not been a great look. They've managed, because it's PlayStation. I always said the brand strength will carry you. Nintendo does it all. The Nintendo can do nothing, and people will still love Nintendo. That brand strength will carry you a long way, and it has. But objectively, Sony has not been in a great position, and we still don't know. There's more questions than answers on that side of things. Whereas Xbox, we still have we have a lot of answers. We've seen a lot, but there's still so many more questions, so much more that we know that they're working on. Like you just alluded to, Mav.
Yeah, there's a roadmap plus.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't know what the plus is, but we
finna get my possible curveball with maybe some new hardware too, right? Yeah, like maybe that little curveball thrown in there too, with maybe a handheld that might change things a little bit, and we might start to have a different conversation too. Yeah. So, but yeah, you guys are 1,000% right just regarding ABK and the IPs. I love the fact that you kind of jumped into another question that I was going to throw to you guys anyway here. Now that we got some extra time, just like the future and like games that we haven't seen that we've heard about from Xbox as well too, because, and you mentioned that, you know what I mean? There are lots of things on Xbox side that we know that it works, but we just haven't really heard about them. I like to hear you guys just kind of go around the panel here on like maybe just a handful, maybe 1 or 2 games that Xbox is kind of on ice that you just like, man, we got to not have to, but maybe in the next year you feel like we should. So, I'm going to start with Fuzz on this one. Just anything on the Xbox side that you might, maybe just like 2-3 games that you like. I know they're cooking, but I want to see something soon.
Contraband.
That was my first one.
No, because I think that's the one that we didn't get to see as much in the CGI trailer in comparison to a lot of the other ones that they showed at that time. Mm-hmm. And we know it's probably closer than a lot of people may think. I'm not going to mention any of the ones that I'm pretty certain are going to be for 2025, because I have a feeling they're already trying to figure out how they can squeeze 6 games into 4 slots kind of thing for 2025. But Contraband's the only one that they've been silent on, but it's not their first party, but it's, it is what it is as far as that's concerned. So hopefully we hear something soon. The other one is from, I want to say it's like Broken Lion or something along those lines.
Brass Lion.
Brass Lion for Project Shaolin.
Yep.
Heard the rumors, haven't seen anything just yet. I'm hoping it is a fighting game kind of deal, but I'm hearing it was like a fighting game / RPG or something like that. So we'll see how that one is. Hopefully soon. Hoping that we get to see it by June of 2025 at the Xbox showcase or something, or maybe even sooner with a dev direct kind of deal. Another one. Let's see. Well, this one's more of an obvious, and I know it's in the works, but I don't know what the time frame is. But my guess is 2026, which would be for Forza Horizon 6. Really hoping they've heard the fans now that they're on next gen hardware. Hopefully, we can see the beauty of Japan with the cherry blossoms, the switchback mountain roads for drifting, and the neon lights in the city or downtown Tokyo, and the highway, street racing and stuff like that. So I'm hoping we get to see some of that here soon. I get a feeling that might be what appears at the Game Awards for 2025, being that it'll probably be a 2026 title. I don't think it'll be a 2025 title, but I'm up for a surprise if they decide to push it earlier, because I think Fable is what that studio, even though it's two big teams, I think Fable will be the darling for 2025, and then let Forza Horizon 6 be the darling for 2026 kind of thing. But those are my top three right now. There's like we talked about earlier, there's a ton more that we know about. Some we've seen, some we haven't seen at all, and there's ones that we saw most recently that will probably be released within 2025 or early 2026. So there's just so much to pick from.
So much. So you stole my first one. So mine would have been Concord right off the rip, because that whole idea of just gave me heavy Mercenaries vibe. If you're older than 30, you probably know what that game is. You probably played it, chat. So phenomenal game, just hardcore fun. We haven't had a game like that since that one. So I'd love to see some kind of heist game, jungle heist, just different environment, cool characters. It looked like it, just from the trailer, looked like it had obviously the music was cool. It looked like it had a lot of kind of attitude. It reminded me, I think it's even set, it might be set in it seemed like it felt like it was set in like the 70s or 80s maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but that's just the energy that I was getting from the trailer. So that one, obviously we know they're cooking with that. Don't know how far along that is. I would assume it's further along than some of the other ones we might mention going forward. The other one I would like to see too. Now I don't know how far along this game is, but we do know People Can Fly is also making a game for them. And I've been a big People Can Fly fan. They made Outriders. I know Outriders is what it is, right? I was talking crazy before Outriders came out. I still remember that. Shout out to Cog. I know you still got that post pinned what I said, but I enjoyed the game. I thought it had obviously it had some technical issues, which and then obviously in-game issues, which kind of at that point in period, if you didn't nail those things, your game's not gonna work, even if everything else is good. So it just kind of fell flat on its face, and Forrest, he wasn't able to really gain any ground even after the updates and fixes, but still a great game. I still think there's a lot of potential. So I'm really excited about what they're possibly doing for Xbox. So, I think that would be the other one for me. So I'll throw this over to you, Pong, kind of get your opinion on this, bro. Anything that's cooking up that you want to see coming up in the next year?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton that you could choose from here. You guys had great ones, for sure. Contraband's the first thing that popped in my head, actually. I'll go outside the box here, though, for sure. On these, pick a couple that haven't been mentioned, but there's so many. But ZeniMax Online's game. Listen, this game's been in development for about 6 years. Whatever ZeniMax Online is cooking up, I'm down for, and we've heard some pretty crazy stuff, like positive wise behind the scenes about what this game is, and the fact that they've sat on this and that there hasn't been a single leak concerning this game. Right. Nobody knows. Again, we've had smoke that it's it could be a Marvel game. We've had smoke that it could be a Star Wars game. We've had smoke that it could be a brand new IP. There's smoke that it could be obviously something in line with Starfield, right? That it could be the Starfield MMO. Whatever it is, it's been in works for about 6 years. That is a extremely talented studio, and they know how to build multiplayer online games. Obviously, the success of ESO stands on its own as proof of that. Okay, I want to see, because we have had nothing new from this team. They just keep building out ESO. So I can't imagine what this new game is going to look like, what it's going to be, but I need to see it. So ZeniMax Online's game for sure. I want to hear about that next year. I thought we were going to see that this year. Maybe we'll get a surprise at the Game Awards and it shows up. If it's big, if it's licensed, if it's Star Wars or Marvel, it could show up at the Game Awards this year, because it's got to be ready to be shown. Like, there's got to be something there after this long. And then my second one will be Outer Worlds 2 from Obsidian.
Ooh.
Avowed is going to be out next year. Should have been out this year yet again. But anyways, it's going to be out in February. But we know they've been cooking on Outer Worlds 2. We know how talented Obsidian's teams are, obviously. We know how efficient their teams are. Now, again, Avowed didn't hit the marks per se that they wanted to as far as release times, but there was things going on, and they did change over to UE5, etc., that caused some delays, whatever.
They made a lot of positive changes.
They made a lot of positive changes, but Outer Worlds 2, I can't wait to see what they've been cooking on that game, because Outer Worlds 1, I love. I got to actually get back to it. I got to play the DLC and stuff because I've got the whole entire package. It's such a great game. I want to see Outer Worlds 2. So those are my two. I got some other ones in the back if we need more, but those are my two for sure next year that I could definitely see teased.
Quick question. Is IO still doing a game?
Yeah, that was my other one. Funny that you are psychic on me. We don't. Well, Mav, go ahead and talk about it, because that was one of my other ones, because we don't know for sure. But go ahead, Mav, because that is one on my list.
No, I have a few. That was like the first one I had thought about, because when that was revealed as like a project in the works, I was like,
Project Dragon.
I was like, what the heck? IO doing this kind of game
RPG,
you know? And they're talking about it being the biggest thing they've ever done, and like all these other kind of things. Like, it just racks my brain, because like when they was announced they're making the Bond game, like that makes sense, you know? It makes sense.
They do Hitman.
It's step for them, like, you know, kind of similar genre, somewhat at least, to Hitman in some ways, right? You got assassins, spies, and all that kind of stuff, right? But like a big fantasy RPG. Like, what? IO? Okay. We know they're crazy talented. So when that was a thing that kind of started getting spread around, I was like, I want to see that. You know, I've just always wanted to know what it looks like. You know, so there was that one for sure. Besides that, though, a couple things. I now that we've had the announcement for Halo and UE5, I just can't wait to see like actual game at some point. I know it's going to be a while, but that's the next thing is just always going to be in my brain.
Certain Affinity would have been on the list had they decided to keep that project. They would have been one of my 2 or 3, probably.
Yeah, 100%. I think I want to see gameplay for Blade. Like that was
That was on my list. That was on my list too, man. It's funny. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I want to see gameplay for Blade. I like, dude. There's so many things you can pick. It's pretty dang crazy. Clockwork Revolution. I think we're gonna get to see a bigger stretch for that game soon. You know,
next year.
But I'm gonna throw one out there. You know, just for the sake of it, because this is one that wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being something that we got to play next year or early 2026, and that would be Everwild.
Oh, I hadn't even. You're absolutely right, because I just, once again, I don't know how true this is. I've read and seen randomly on the timeline fairly recently, I say in the last few months, that game seems to be back on track.
Well, because they got new solar panels, so now they have enough power to actually run the PCs there, so they can actually do some work now.
They're growing wheatgrass on the roof.
So it's even working even better. I thought you were going with something else. They're growing wheat.
No.
I was going to be like, well, that'll help them work too. But whatever they did over there with the new barn, it's working. So they're back on track.
They're back on track. Good. Now, I don't know if that's confirmed, man. That's just, I've seen it a couple times. People mention it randomly. I've seen it in my timeline.
Phil said he played it.
Oh, okay, good.
Phil visited him, and they said on Twitter that he played it. So
cool. Good.
There's been more rumblings about that game, like kind of like it's in good shape now, and they know what they're doing, and all this other kind of stuff. So, but I just remember when we actually saw that last. It's been years, right? But when we saw the actual trailer of like the creatures and like the people walking around with them and stuff, it was like, it was just gorgeous, right? Whatever that was that they showed us was gorgeous. So I want to see that today, which is years later now, but like in game form, to like, what is this game now? So, and I think more so than anything, I'm just really intrigued by all this time that's passed. And I'm going to throw this out there too. Like, this is not stuff that's rumored, but I'm just going to throw a bone to say there's certain franchises that I hope they are in the background finding ways to bring back, or to do right by. Which they're doing. They have a couple that they are. They have brought back. They brought back Fable, which I can add that to the list, right?
Yep.
Perfect Dark is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple. The old Facet games, right? That you talk about just great games. You had Mech Assault, you had Crimson Skies, you had Shadowrun, first-person shooter and stuff. Like they've got to figure out a way to bring some of those back. But beyond that, there's another game that I feel like they have the talent, they have everybody here, they have all these studios, they have all these people, and they always had to go outside to get this game made after the success of the first one.
I think I know where you're going.
And
with
then they had a fumble with the second one, and then they had a really big fumble with the third one that took way too long, and then they had a lot of development issues and all that kind of stuff. And we still haven't even gotten a major update for it for 60 frames, I don't think. But I would like to see this game come back because I loved this game. It's Crackdown. Like, I know it didn't go well with, but it is a great IP, man. It is a blast to play, and they could do right by it. I just hope somewhere in the background there's some rumblings or something. I don't know.
I thought you were going elsewhere with that one.
Mav, like I love Crackdown.
I love Crackdown too.
All the IP that they now own and they've mothballed Crackdown.
If they ever, dude, if Crackdown, if they took the evolution from 1 to 2 that it should have, then we'd be talking about Crackdown today in a completely different way.
I don't know, bro.
The first game was like
I loved them. Again, I get addicted to going after and collecting all the shit. I love it. Same. I love it.
I beat the last.
All the IP though, man.
There's a million. I said Mech Assault. I would put Mech Assault probably number 1.
But we know the licensing is a mess, so that's
but they could. They got so much money, dude. They could just
they haven't done any of that common sense shit that we always talk about. They don't do the common sense stuff. They don't.
There's another one I haven't heard anybody mention either. None of us have mentioned, and that's Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
Well, we think that's in the works, though.
So.
Well,
now that they got a back on it, and it's full time, and they're working on it. It seems like that makes a lot of sense. Doing it.
Think so?
There's no. I don't even. Yeah. I'll add to that, Pong.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a reason for them to bring Iron Galaxy in to update Killer Instinct 1 at this point, unless there was the plans for the second one.
It's just been too long, and it just makes so much sense. Like
fighting genres back again.
It's back again. Adding updates and doing all they just had like another anniversary.
I saw that
thing the other day. Like there's no way I feel like because this doesn't make sense. A studio that is a big studio that did these other things come back on board to just give updates to like an last gen launch game. It just doesn't add. Like obviously there's something more to that, and maybe this is just that was the start of it. Them getting their feet wet with Killer Instinct, kind of. Hey, we're gonna fix this game first, and then while we're working on the other one. I feel like that. I've always felt like that's what actually happened.
We've always just heard that, like literally from I feel it might have been from Phil himself said they just need to find somebody to do it. I don't remember specifically who that was. Phil, Aaron, somebody said that literally in a tweet. Like we got to find somebody to do it. Like
lucky for Phil, Iron Galaxy's big, huge Rumble battle royale game thing that they made failed. It flopped miserably, and they became available. They needed a project, so I think this would be like Iron Galaxy who made the Killer Instinct game. It was Double Helix, but they took over for them and proved that they could do right by the franchise and the game. I think they're hopefully working on the second one.
Hey, I think a new Killer Instinct can be just as big as, maybe not Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter level, but it's up there, you know what I mean, as far as like the amount of people that'll play it, and I think that will get excited for a brand new one. So Yeah, absolutely. There's so much, man, and I know we're missing a bunch too. I know there's a bunch of other.
Yeah, I mean, you could go down the Crash Bandicoot route and talk all that stuff. You know,
Banjo, right? There's always the Banjo advocacy out there. They want Banjo to come back. I actually love. You brought this up earlier. The biggest thing really that gets me excited about all the possibilities that we're talking about is that this shit literally can actually happen. Like this stuff used to just be like fantasy football, right, man? We used to talk about, all these teams getting back together and like, they finally get a chance to work on their IP that they got taken away from them for 10 years, or just the dream collabs between the two studios, like you mentioned, id and id doing a Halo game, or yada yada yada. So like these things can actually happen, man. That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, they can. I've seen people talk about this other thing too, is like, having I want to see a second team form out of In Exile, Bethesda Game Studios, and Obsidian.
I knew you were gonna say. I knew you were gonna do that.
Right?
I knew you were gonna do that.
Interplay 2, or whatever you want to call it, right? And like just have them be another like I guess executor of those franchises, as long with Todd, and Todd could like be executive over it still, or whatever, he could like still have oversight, but like I feel like waiting like 8 to 10 years for the next big Elder Scrolls game, and like 8 to 10 years for the next Fallout, 8 to 10 years for the next or Starfield is not going to be the best thing.
You can't do that.
Yeah. So like they got to figure that out too.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that too. Well, I mean, it's been a while since I thought about that. Pong, goddamn it, me, Pong, Fuzz, we had that conversation. Once that deal was announced, we definitely had that conversation. Pong specifically, but yeah, that's a great fucking idea, man. There's so much that they can do, and this is the benefit that we talked about. Pong, we've been talking about this moat for how long now?
Forever, brother. Going on 3 years plus, probably.
They called us crazy. They called us crazy. And
nah. They just didn't see the vision, brother. They just didn't understand the vision, right? So, but yeah, no. Even when everything changed, because Mav and I had those discussions too back in the day. I think we all did at some point. Even changing the whole, the whole business model, the moat still stands. It still works. It's still a thing because, again, they don't have to rely on any part of the industry really at this point. Yeah, they still need something in the East, and that's why I still think they make one more acquisition over there. But outside of that, they can make any game they need to, and they don't have to rely on third party. And if the rest of the industry crashes, they can still make games till their heart's content. They have enough to fill a pipeline year in and year out. It's crazy, but that's where they're at now. They're insulated.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing too. You know what I mean? And I love it. I really, really love it because we're gonna get some really, really cool things that come out of this. I know we do, and they're sitting on things that obviously we haven't seen yet too. New hardware around the corner. They're clearly not abandoning the home console market. That's probably around the corner too. We'll see that. Who knows? The next 2 years probably. So really, really exciting times ahead. Really, really exciting time ahead. So we got like 10, 12 minutes left. I know, Mav, you got to get out of here fairly soon. So we'll take like maybe 2 questions from chat. If you guys want to go ahead and just throw a couple questions at us, that would be great. Otherwise, I do want to get into maybe one little last quick topic. Want to talk a little bit about this little nugget that we got. Excuse me. Recently, it dropped on Twitter about the shakeup at Insomniac. We had a dev, one of the lead devs at Insomniac, leave, and actually is now at the Initiative and is working on Perfect Dark. And now the Ratchet and Clank, the lead devs there, are now doing Wolverine. They're now in charge of Wolverine. So just kind of we'll just kind of rapid fire this, Mav. Just kind of get your quick thoughts on that.
It was hilarious is because originally Drew Murray was the creative director of
Initiative
Dark, and he was from Insomniac, and then he left to go back to Insomniac, and now their next game, Wolverine, the creative director left from there to come to Microsoft to work on Perfect Dark. I don't. It's just weird. It's like this trade that took like a couple years to happen.
Right?
Like I don't know how that works out, but it's interesting. I think
obviously, if they're a creative director over Wolverine, they're probably somebody that has a lot of talent. I'm not really like up to stuff on.
He's made a few other games,
you know,
yeah.
but,
I think Rise of the Tomb Raider, I believe, something along those lines. A few other games.
I know a lot of people are making it out to be like a bad thing about Wolverine. Also, like I whenever these creative directors like switch and get different jobs and all that stuff, yeah, it can mean different things or whatever, or it could maybe not mean anything. I don't think any of us really know for sure, but overall, good for Perfect Dark. I'm sure they wanted to hire him, so hopefully we start approaching the last year and a half or 2 years of development on that thing, so we can actually play it. So hopefully that's what this means for Perfect Dark.
True. I had the same exact take. You know, it could mean a lot. It could mean nothing, right? Because they're creative people, and creative people they want to do creative things. And if, you know, maybe just that vision wasn't being fed all the way, maybe he was already looking elsewhere. So it just could be a simple.
I am curious if there's any kind of connection with the Drew Murray thing, though.
That's interesting.
Like, I don't know. It's just weird. The same. Yeah. I mean, out of all the studios that are out there, right? I mean, there's like thousands of game dev studios.
Initiative's right in Santa Monica, isn't? Where's Insomniac at?
Probably.
Aren't they right there down in the same? They're they're very close.
There's a lot.
They are. They are. They're all in the heart of the same.
They're all in the heart of the same.
Yeah, that's why they built the initiative. Was there was to attract that talent. Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. To poach some of those other guys. So there might be a little bit of that, Mav. Maybe there might be a little bit of you.
Yeah, so somebody at the local Starbucks waiting for the guys to walk in. Hey, I know you. Aren't you working on Wolverine over there? We gotta. Did you hear we have an opening right now? You know?
No.
How do you like coffee?
My God.
Sign-in bonus.
Would you like a coffee with $100,000 as a sign-in bonus?
Yeah.
It is interesting.
I think it was fairly simple, actually. Steele and I had a big conversation this morning about this, actually. I'll give a quick synopsis. As far as Wolverine goes, there was some talk that this was a creative difference thing. That
they
he
did
moved
mention
on.
that.
But it happened very recently. He was posting about Wolverine up to August on his X post, so this did just happen. I think Wolverine's going to be just fine. It's far enough along. You know, he obviously, if it's true that it was a creative decision or the creative impasse that he thought something was, whatever the case may be, obviously he stood on his hill and there was a power struggle and he lost. This is the creative industry. This is not, again, as Mr. Mahler said, this is messy industry, right? Creating games is messy. It's not always form. Like, it's not always organized. It's not always, the way you think it's going to go. So he left. He obviously has worked with Gallagher at the initiative. Gallagher's there. So they have the relationship. Again, you go look at this guy's history. Creative director of Marvel's Wolverine, creative director of Spider-Man Miles Morales, creative director of Spider-Man, a creative director of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, game director of Rise of the Tomb Raider, senior art director Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Tomb Raider. Art director, Toy Story 3, Spectrobes, Toy Story Mania, Ghostbusters, Bourne, Fear 3, Mummy 3. Dude has pedigree. This guy is talented. You bring him on. Gallagher knows who he is. They've worked in the past together. He's another buddy. Gallagher probably, as I said, and again, this is all speculation. I like to create stories in my head, but I can see how this goes down. You got a guy like a talent like this that leaves. Obviously, you talk to your buddies. Gallagher's like, oh, shit, you're free. Okay, well, guess what? I'm going to make some room for you over here. We're really, quite a ways along on Perfect Dark. We just showed it off, right? But again, as we had talked about this morning, in this portion of the game development, there's still your story's built. You're going to have all that outline, but you're still going to have time to change some moment-to-moment stuff. So you bring in a guy like this who has worked on a ton of narrative, story-driven games, and you give him somebody how he speaks. You guys speak the same language. You work together. You bring him in. You're going to give him the position because he's not going to come over for peanuts, right? He's not going to come over and take a down
not.
move
Yeah,
at this point in
not.
his career. So you give him the title, you give him the salary, you bring him in, let him take a look at what you got going on Perfect Dark, see if he thinks that some things can be tightened up, get an outside opinion that hasn't been involved in the project from the start. See what he thinks. Again, he's not going to come in and change everything and cancel the project. He's going to come in and tell you some spots maybe where he thinks some things could go differently. But then you also have him in the fold for the next project. You've now got a super talented guy that you've worked with in the past. Again, speaking your language, right? That's why Gallagher went out and got the Crystal Dynamics team from Embracer to come help with the Perfect Dark. Those people knew him. He knew them. There wasn't going to be a whole lot of, feeling each other out and trying to figure out how this all works. They all know each other. Now you got another experienced, talented dude in-house. They might have another project we don't even know about, just kind of fermenting right now, just started for after Perfect Dark, and maybe Gallagher looks at him and goes, man, we'd love to have you come on and continue to work on projects in the future with us too, but take a look at Perfect Dark and see what you see. That's my quick synopsis of our conversation this morning. I think it makes perfect sense. When I was looking this up, I was like, oh shit, Gallagher, yeah, he worked with him. Yeah. No shit. Okay, this makes perfect sense now.
And before you jump in for us, just my quick run through this. Yeah. So I 1000% agree with you, Pong, as well as what you said. First thing came to my mind was, like you said, old boy Murray leaving and going to, and how circular this whole situation was, right? How ironic this all was. But once again, second thing I did was go to his X page, and because I wanted just to know what he had done, maybe some of his work history. And as you can see, has an extensive work history, high quality guy, like you said, very familiar. It just makes sense. Plug and play. I don't need you to come in here and reinvent the wheel. I need your brain. I need your ideas, because you have a bunch of good ones. And you could see things, like you said, a fresh perspective. He wasn't there from day one. He wasn't there when, the storyboarding part of the game, doing all of the mundane things. He wasn't there for any of that. They're well into that process, but he can come and just maybe refine a few things, give a few ideas, and like you said, Pong, and just add his value to what's already a great game and make it that much better. So, Pong, go ahead, bro. I'm the Pong, but Fuzz, sorry.
No, I think you guys pretty much nailed it. Like, people change positions a lot of times within that industry, and if he wasn't completely happy with a decision that was made and decided to move on, hey, what better way than go up the street where he's working with somebody he's worked with in the past and knows what to expect and whatnot. So great pickup on the initiative spot, or as far as what they're doing currently and what they might be doing shortly after. I like Pong's idea as far as, bring them into the doorway now, help them, get this across the line, and then, have added on the next project type of thing. Start building up your team. And, it looks like, I guess, Crystal Dynamics might not be the acquisition that we kind of hope for kind of deal, but if they're not going to acquire them, then, start building, that team up, and maybe even poach some from the Crystal Dynamics team in the process as well, while you're getting, your top players from other places that, you've worked with before. So great pickup. Be curious to see, as far as the directors from Ratchet and Clank taking over Wolverine, not for Wolverine's sake, but was a Ratchet and Clank not in the cards? I know before it was listed as a canceled or a paused idea on Team Blue, as far as, the next Ratchet and Clank might not be for a while.
Yeah, that was in the leaks, I believe, right?
Yeah. Instead of laying them off, now they get kind of to move up the ranks, I guess, to some extent, or just moved into what would have been the A project or the bigger project within their walls. But hopefully, Insomniac has been pretty much carrying Sony this generation, so I'm sure they'll be fine. And it's great to have some great additional talent coming back to Initiative. And even though people complained before about how, Microsoft doesn't know how to manage a studio, well, looks like they've been doing fine ever since those, reports. I mean, I guess the drawback is whenever you bring a lot of cooks, like top grade chefs, into the kitchen kind of thing, some of them are going to butt heads. And whether it's personality or other, crosses or whatever, some people will leave, some people will stay, and they'll just make do with the team that they have. But yeah, it's great to see. Hopefully we get to see Perfect Dark here in 2025 or maybe 2026. Well, hopefully within the next year or so.
Awesome. All right. Well, great points. And I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the Shop Podcast 357, man. I want to get to Mav. I know he don't have a lot of time. Got to make sure we get back to wifey. So just before you go, Mav, once again, first and foremost, brother, I appreciate you stopping through and coming in, man. It's always a good time. I love having you on. I appreciate you coming through, but let everybody know where they can find you if they don't already, Mav.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. I got to apologize for the mic issues. I created more work for myself by accidentally deleting something I shouldn't have. But anyway, it was great being here with Pong and Fuzz and you, of course. And chat's awesome, as always. All the familiar names and stuff and good conversations. Love the way you host your shows, as always, dude. And but if you guys want to find me, just follow on X at Fun Speculation. Check out YouTube Fun Speculation. I'll be streaming a game tomorrow. One I haven't checked out yet, so I'm looking forward to that. I don't know exactly what time, but just if you check on Twitter, you can kind of look for that, and I'll or X, whatever it's called. I call it X, and then I call it Twitter, whatever.
Are you doing Veilguard? What are you doing?
No, I'm gonna. Okay. There's another game that I haven't tried yet. I have it on. I got it on Steam. I haven't gotten Veilguard yet because where I was gonna get it, it's out.
Oh, okay. I just know you said last night that you were thinking about playing this weekend, so I thought maybe that was the one.
And I was about to maybe pull the trigger, and I was like, they're out. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay.
Where I can get it for the best price, right? So, anyway, but I will be streaming a game tomorrow at some point, so just stay tuned for that. And then on Monday, FSP, 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern time, PM in the PM Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then XUP Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate it.
Awesome. No, appreciate you coming through. You guys know that the FSP General, Mav, always hanging out with us. Please go show some love over there. Man puts on phenomenal shows throughout the week. Great host, great human being, great gamer. Go follow Mav. A lot of you guys are familiar with Mav already, but go show some love. Watch the videos, watch the live streams. I popped into your stream earlier, so I saw you. I was lurking in the stream earlier, so I'll pop in and out of there. But appreciate you coming through, Mav, as always, bro. Hopefully we can have you back sooner than later. The next time we get you on here, brother. But thank you for stopping through. And tell Caitlin I said hello, and we appreciate her loaning you for a little while, for a few hours this Saturday, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, and I hope y'all have a good one.
Take it easy. For sure. Take it easy. But all right, let me get to my brothers now. Another phenomenal show, man. Another awesome show. Chat was amazing. The guest was amazing as usual. But Pong, man, great show, great week, man. Let everybody know where they can find you, G.
Yeah, great to be back on a Saturday night. This is the way I love to end my week, man. And it was it wasn't really even a complete week because we didn't have PM in the PM because Halloween, but I got to be live raw and uncut with my brother this morning, Steel, for the first time in a couple weeks, so that was nice. So this feels right. So thank you, PTK and Fuzzy, and of course Mav for joining us as well, as always, man. What a great night. Great conversations with some of my favorite people in the whole wide world. So man, it doesn't get any better than this. So but you guys know the drill by now. It's Pong Soul on X, formerly known as Twitter, Pong Soul on the Xbox, Steam, Epic, GOG, you name it. Find me, I'll follow you back. And then of course, as far as podcasting goes, next week you always got to check out Double Barrel Gaming, the channel. You got to check out Boomstick the man. He does it 5 days a week. But if you get an opportunity, Tuesdays is Xbox Factor Podcast, All Good Things Green, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. Check out that crew. It's always a good place to be. And then, of course, my week starts on Thursdays, and Mav and I will be back this week for PM in the PM, Pong and Mav in the PM, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time, over on the Fun Speculation Network, where I take
Did you take into account for the time change too?
Yeah, because we keep it the same because we're both on Central, so we stay the same. Yeah. We don't have your weird issue time frame because next week we're back. We're 9/8 here next week, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah, no, we don't have to worry about that shit. So we're good. So yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time next Thursday night for PM in the PM. And then Friday night, it's Xbox Ultimate, where the family gets together. No matter how many of us are there, we always have lots of laughs, lots of good talk. I had to get there about an hour late last night, but man, Jasper and Fuzzy and Mav were holding down the fort. Really good time last night as well. It always is on Fridays, so be there for that. And we are now 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time every Friday as well. And then, of course, Saturday mornings, Steel, Rain, and I, we are back. We had a couple weeks off. Steel had some real life stuff to take care of, but we are back. So Living Split Screen next Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3+ hours. Buckle up and get ready. Choo-choo, motherfuckers, on Saturday mornings with me and Steel, where we just gab. We had 4+ hours this morning. We had the chat controlling a lot of our talking points this morning. We get into topics that a lot of other places won't, but we talk a lot of gaming too as well. So be there for Living Split Screen, all one word, every Saturday morning. Listen, y'all, Golden Age is here. Like I said, I was a filthy console casual this week, man. Completely filthy, bro. I got games. That's what's sad about Call of Duty being this good, is I got games normally where I can put Call of Duty down and be like, that's cool, I've had enough Call of Duty, and go play all my other games that I really want to play. Like, now Call of Duty's holding me back from all these freaking games that I have in my life. Like, I had to get to Metaphor Refantasio. I've got 10 hours into it, and I stopped. Like, I haven't been back. Yo, it's the golden age of gaming. I know you all, no matter where you're playing right now, have probably about 200 games that you can go play right now. Get out there, play what you love what you play, enjoy this time, gamers. Not all the times are like this. Let's love it as it is right now. I'll talk to y'all real soon. Thank you, PTK. Get us
Appreciate
out of here,
you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, so you guys go check out Pong as well, too. Go follow Pong on X, all of his exploits and everything he has going on. Shout out to, Steel Rain. Shout out to the brother Mav, like I said before, too. We all a big family. Shout out to Boom as well, too, the OG over there, Breakfast with Boom. So, yeah, go check everyone out, man. They all do great, phenomenal shows. And shout out to you, Pong, for always being here, coming through, bringing that energy every week. I need it, brother. I need it. So thank you so much, my boy. And last but not least, Fuzzy Belvedere, man, another great show. You know what I mean? Great conversation, great topics, man. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, this was awesome, guys. Always love doing this on Saturday nights. Always great when we have Mav on here, but always love doing podcasts with EPTK and Pong. Just pretty much a perfect way, like Pong says, the way to end your Saturday night. But yeah, this was fun. Greatly appreciate everybody in the chat. Thanks, you guys, for showing up. Definitely hit that like button if you can. Subscribe if you're not already. We greatly appreciate it. And same for those that may be catching us on replay. And for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. Also, signing up for other places like Blue Sky, also on Threads, Instagram, everywhere. Just search for Fuzzy Belvedere. You'll be able to find me. And then hopefully tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we should be able to do Pixelated Echoes, just me and 3-Bit. We're going to pretty much catch up on some of the topics we may have missed these past weeks and stuff. But check that out tomorrow, Sunday, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Xbox Lunch Break Special on Monday at 12 noon on Double Barrel Gaming with Mr. Boomstick. And I think we're going to have a new guest or a new panel member. I Love Coffee, I believe, is their
awesome.
And then later that night, FSP at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you guys there as well. But, like Pong said, Golden Age Gaming, yeah. Enjoy some games or at least tackle that backlog. There's no excuse not to be doing some or playing some sort of game out there now because there's so many to choose from. But have a good night. Great rest of your weekend, guys.
Appreciate you, Fuzz, man. And last but not least, boy, PTK Blam, the host here at the Shop Podcast, man. I appreciate all of you coming out, hanging out with us, spending time, on Saturday, every single weekend, hanging out with us, man. We try and put on the best show possible. So hit the like button, retweet. Appreciate everybody watching on the replay later as well too. But yeah, you can find me Xbox Live on X at PTK Blam. Like I always tell you guys, always love interaction with the community. So if you got ideas for the podcast, for shows, videos, whatever the case may be, let me know. We'll try and incorporate those things. But other than that, man, like these two already told you, there's so many fucking games to go play. Do it. Get off, put your phone down, go jump on, tackle that backlog, man. We're in the perfect time to be a gamer right now. So much out there to play, but we'll see you guys next week. Obviously, the time change will be a little different. I will announce the time officially once the clock changes. I'm in AZ, so we're weird. We're the only state where the time doesn't change at all. Everybody's time changes around us. But I'll tweet that stuff out next week so make everybody aware so you guys don't miss the show. But other than that, peace out, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you guys soon.
Later.